Hello, Schmucker Spartans. Your school counselors want to take a moment to share a bit about what a middle school schedule looks like. In elementary school, you spend most of your day with the same teacher, but in middle school, you get to see up to 7 different teachers a day. Reading a schedule can be tricky at first, but you'll see they're actually very easy to navigate through. Here's a sample of a 6th grade schedule. You'll find some of your personal information along the top. And also, if we were starting the year in person, you would see your locker information listed. Then we get to the important stuff, all your class information. So every student starts their day with a advisory class. In advisory class, we do social and emotional learning or SEL lessons. We set goals during this time. We do team building. We read. There's lots of fun stuff going on during advisory class. And you can see if you read across, you see it's advisory. You can see your teacher's name. So this student has Mr. Black, and you can see the room number, which is 321. There's also lots of other information. Like, for example, this column says days. And at Schmucker, we have gold and blue days. And what this means is that advisory meets every day, both on gold and blue days. Next, first period, this student has science. And we know this student has science with Mr. Osler in room 217. And you continue to read down your schedule, and you can look at each period, what class you have, what teacher you have, what room it's in. Make sure it's every day, so both gold and blue days. Then the student would go to their 3rd period social studies class. After that, 6th grade has lunch. After that, the student would go to orchestra for 4th period. They would go to math for 5th period. And then we get to 6th period. And I want to talk about this for a minute because you can see there's lots of classes listed as being 6th period. So let's take a moment to talk about this. 6th grade students rotate through a series of classes along with PE. And you'll see here that it has blue and gold days designated. So what this means is that every gold day, this student goes to PE during 6th period. But the student also gets to go to health on blue days during 6th period. So if school were to start on the very first day, this student might go to PE, and then the next day they go to health. Then they circle back to PE, then they go to health. And the student would go back and forth throughout the first 9 weeks, every other day rotating between these 2 classes. After the end of the first quarter, the student would continue to have PE every gold day, but they will be done with health, and we can almost cross that off their schedule at the end of the first quarter. And now they're going to cycle through Project Lead the Way. So this student would go to PE, and the next day, Project Lead the Way. The next day, PE, the next day, Project Lead the Way. And every other day, this student will switch back and forth between PE and Project Lead the Way. At the end of second quarter, the student will then have computers. And again, the student will rotate back and forth between PE, then computers, PE, then computers. And they'll do that every other day. Finally, they'll rotate back and forth between PE and art. So this student will finish out their school year, fourth quarter, with art and PE. So hopefully that helps explain why there's so many classes listed for 6th period. And then finally, every student has a 7th period listed, but this is important to know. This is not a class that meets in person. It's called the Class of 2027, and it's listed to be with Mrs. Hoover. Mrs. Hoover is one of the school counselors here. So one important thing to note, if you do see Mrs. Hoover's name here, that does not necessarily mean she's your school counselor. Up top, it will indicate who your school counselor is. But Mrs. Hoover's name will be listed here. You'll see this Class of 2027 also in Canvas, and this is where your school counselors can put out information that we think is important for you to know. So this is just a little bit about how to read a schedule for Schmucker Middle School, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact your school counselor. Have a great day.